going to give you an overview here of the shadow view, and you can access this particular view by selecting any foundation chart for any person in your GM hub, and then next to that is the view drop down, and just select the shadow view. Now the shadow, what is that? We've used that terminology because the shadow here represents the mind that will take over the decision making for your life if you believe what your mind is telling you, if you give it any credence. So this is a shadow that is always there, looking to pull you away from your true self, which is the self that is guided by your inner authority process, and where the mind has the opportunity to become the true mind. And the true mind is not this mind that thinks it's the boss, the mind that thinks it can plot your way in life, which is an absolute joke. The true mind is something very, very spectacular. You will often hear this referred to as the passenger. And the passenger, the true passenger, is not limited by the bioform vehicle that is guiding you through this strategy and authority process. Your passenger is riding within this vehicle, but the passenger is not only connected through the vehicle, it's connected through its very nature to the neutrino stream, so it's free, and it can leave the hassle of being in this bioform. I'm transporting my passenger to you now through this communication, whereas my bioform is sitting here not moving. So the true passenger is the possibility of what is really there to be unveiled as your true mind. But this shadow view, well, this is actually showing you the mind that is trying to seize control of your life, or the life of whoever you've run this chart for. And thus anybody you meet that has not been introduced to human design, or is not actively experimenting with hands-off decision making from mind through your inner authority process, well, whatever that person says to you, they are living their shadow. It is their shadow mind that is driving every decision, and you almost don't even need to look at their foundation chart, that true self chart, because it's really not what the individual is aware of. If you describe their shadow to them, they will usually say, oh yes, that's me. So I'm going to give you an overview here just about the structure of the shadow view. There's a lot of detailed information in here that I will be covering in other videos, but I just wanting to give you a holistic view here first. Just to give you the semantics of how these charts are laid out, always on the top left of any chart is the chart name, in the middle is the view name of that chart, and on the right there is the calculation mechanism that has been used. It's very important to differentiate true human design, which is a tropical calculation and is the basis of your experiment, from the sidereal calculation, which has other value for astrologers, but is not something I'm covering in any of these foundation videos. Then on every shadow chart you're going to get the name of the person. I've obscured that here, but I will give you an idea of who this is at the end of the video. Then we have the basics of their mechanics, their type, and for the shadow view, well, the type is very, very valuable, not because they are living their type, because their mind is going to be colored by the quality of that type. So this mind, for example, is a mind that's always trying to avoid bitterness, because that is the shadow of the projector type, which is all about success, which is all about sweetness when things are going well. And the inverse of that is the bitter, not self mind of the projector. So the decision making for this person straight away, just look at the type there, is driven by that shadow quality, which is a bitter mind that is making decisions here. And then then below that is the definition. Again, definition's very important relative to the shadow. You will hear this called the not self as well. But the mind, when it's making decisions for your life, a definition, especially a small split definition, is something very, very important for that not self mind. Very, very important to do something about that. And here we have a mind that is very, very focused on the 48th gate in the splenic center, which we know is the gate of depth. There's a fear of inadequacy, there's a fear of lack of depth in this person, so that's what's going to be driving this not self mind forwards. Where can I find the depth? How can I make this deeper? How can I appear not to be inadequate? But again, I'll cover those in more detail in other videos. We're having an overview here. Now, if we look at the image of the body chart here, clearly this is a normal 9-centered chart, but this is how the not self mind is seeing that design. It's not paying attention to centers that are active or defined. It's paying attention to the centers that are not active, because they are the centers that are subject to conditioning, and the not self mind lives off conditioning, and it effectively ignores what is that person, which is the definition. So with this particular design, we've got these 5 orange centers, so they would represent the 5 open centers on this person's foundation design. Let's have a quick look at their normal foundation chart. So you can see the shadow is the inverse, because the mind is basing all of its decision based on who you are not, which is the combination of these open centers in a particular order, as we are going to find out. Now, going back to the shadow view, the orange centers really are calling out the strategies for those centers. And if you look over to the left-hand side, you'll see this whole stream of data. And it's just really important at this early stage, when you're looking at the not self of that person, well, just look at the line below the center there. So this is someone that thinks about things that don't matter to them, and that becomes important for their own individual decision making. This is someone that's always looking for love, direction and identity, because they have an undefined G center. This is someone that's always trying to prove their worth, because they fear not being worthy in the eyes of the other. This is someone that's always going to avoid confrontations, and thus they will avoid the truth if their not self mind thinks that will bring them confrontation. And this is someone that just gets carried away, never knowing when enough is enough. So that's the basics of their not self mind, and typically that's the level that any basic human design course will take you to. And if you just want to leave it there, well, you will have a pretty well-rounded view of that person's shadow mind that you are looking at, and that is what is driving their decisions. I'm making a decision because I want to prove myself worthy, and I want to avoid confrontations, so I will justify avoiding the truth here, because I don't know when enough is enough, as I look for love, direction and identity, and I never know when enough is enough, because I'm always thinking about things that don't matter, because I want to be deeper, the split definition. That is the basis of this person's shadow decision-making authority. Now, there are other elements of this shadow view that, if you want to go to the finest detail of how that person's not self mind is truly operating, well, you need to learn about these elements. And I will be producing videos on each one of these. You will see these colored dots. If you look at the head center in terms of the labels on the left there, you will see a green dot and 2 blue dots. If you look at the self center, you will see some red dots in there. And if you look at the bottom of the chart, well, you will see these dots in a key table. So whenever you see a red dot, that means it's a mental conditioner for that person. This is what we call a not self gate. And again, I will be doing videos on each one of these categories. But in short, a mental conditioner or a not self gate is a gate that is open in an open center. And that open gate is open to something that's already in that person's design. So they have a gate that's pointing to that openness. So if we look at the heart center of this person, you will see that the 26th gate is red there, and this means that it is very much a not self conditioner for this mind. It's something that they must prove, and we know this is the gate of the egoist, and this is a gate also certainly is a gate of lying, potentially inflation of things to make me look more worthy. So this is someone that is probably pretty economical with the truth if they listen to their not self mind and it matters to their worthiness. So these red mental conditioners are very, very important, because really that's what's driving the decision as part of that open center. It's what matters to me, says that not self mind, these red dots. The blue dots, these are what we call transpersonal conditioners. So this is an open channel in an open center. So the 21 in this heart center, for example, is blue. It's a transpersonal conditioner, and thus it is something they want to prove, but it's not so personal. If I can't prove that I'm always in control, well, it's not my fault, says this not self mind. It's that other person. So a transpersonal conditioner, a bitter not self mind in this case, is going to blame the other if I can't prove my worth there. Whereas if the 26 cannot be proven, well, that's my problem, and it's my fault, says the not self mind, and I'm going to redouble my efforts next time to make sure that I prove my worth. I will up the ante. The green dot, these are called conditioning receptors, and again, the mind, it's important to the mind, but it's not driving so much of the mental decision making. And again, I will talk about these in another video, but a conditioning receptor is a gate in an open center that is looking for the gate on the other side. So this is a gate that this person has in their design in an open center, and really from the mind's perspective, well, if that 24 comes along, it's of interest because it defines the head center and gives me something worthy to think about. But it's not the priority in terms of driving that decision. So from a high level perspective, you need to look at these open centers, look at the taglines, the thinking about things that don't matter to you, and then really look at these red mental conditioners, because this is really what's driving that decision through that open center strategy. Now, if we look over to the right-hand side of the chart, you will see the two arrows, the red circle and the label there. So this is a mind in its not self guise that's driven by the motivation of fear. So it fears not proving its worthiness. And that's not the genuine motivation of this true self mind, the passenger mind. If we quickly knit back to the foundation chart for this person, where you can see that that one is actually a 4. That is their true motivation. But what this shadow view is showing you is the transferred motivation of that person, and it's that motivation that's driving their life. It's that motivation that's taking them away from their true purpose, and it's that motivation that is a blind motivation. There's no tonal intelligence that is aligned to that fear motivation. If we go back to the foundation chart, the tonal intelligence is this green triangle. So when you are operating through your strategy and inner authority, and the mind is not partaking in the decision, you have a chance then to start seeing your passenger in action, and that is the road to true awareness, driven by tone, which then truly starts to bring the track of that mind, which is called the trajectory. Again, we'll go through those in another video. So this is a fearful mind, it's a receptive mind as well. So this is a mind that's obsessed with strategies, even though it's not a strategic mind. Again, the mind, the not self mind, always does the inverse of its true nature. It's an absolute joke, but there you go. That's the mechanics of the shadow person that I am, that you are, that everyone is, if they believe what their mind is telling them. And again, that corruption, that transference operates at the nodal level. This is what the other L is showing you, the other arrow. This is showing you the transferred view. So this is someone that's obsessed with power. It's seeing, where can I take power? How can I take power? How can I dominate here? Whereas this is a true self mind that has nothing to do with power. So this is a mind driven by the need for power, fearfully trying to prove itself worthy, will lie if necessary given the nature of the heart center, and then on and on and on through these not self strategies. Now, one nice little key here that is not part of these charts that I just wanted to give you a quick view of is what we call the not self affinities. This is the shadow mind map, and it's really quite important to understand this later on. And again, I will be doing videos about each one of these elements, but every center is dealt with in a slightly different way by the not self mind, given its affinity within the mind map itself. So if we take the heart center here, you will see there's a number 1 written. This means that this is always the first center, if it's open, that mind is going to deal with. This is the most important center in terms of dealing with it. So that's what the 1 is here. It's a ranking. This is how the mind ranks the centers in this not self chain. So we've got the heart center for this shadow chart is number 1. We know that they're avoiding confrontation and truth, so this is the emotional center, and this is number 2 on this ranking chart. And then in terms of the rest of the open centers in this person's design, well, the self center is next. This has a number 3 ranking. Then it's the head center up there, number 6 ranking, and then it's the sacral center, which is a number 8 ranking. So again, I'll take you through this in other videos, but if we go back to this shadow, given the overview nature of this, well, the way you would look at this shadow chart is that you want to view the not self strategy in the affinity order. So this is a mind that's always trying to prove worthiness and prove that they are the best. This is a mind that then avoids confrontations and will thus avoid the truth, playing into the natural nature of the 26th gate anyway, which is to lie. This is someone that's always looking for love, direction and identity. Who am I? And this is someone that then thinks about things that don't matter and never knows when enough is enough, as they fearfully search for power in every situation. That is the shadow of this person in a nutshell. So I guess you want to know who this is.